All right, how's everybody doing? Welcome back to You Don't Know Ball, episode 60, big 60. We're glad to have y'all back. And I would say, Hunter, like I've been saying before we started recording, I think that this week was definitely the most fun
100%.
week of football so far. And, tonight we get the Chiefs and the Eagles Super Bowl rematch. I mean, you can't ask for more than that to top off the special week. What do you got to say about it so far?
Well, I think it started off pretty upsetting going into Cincinnati at Baltimore. You know, you have Mark Andrews, who's basically out for the year. If not, I think he was ruled out for the year.
They said unless they make a deep playoff run, there's a chance.
Okay.
But you know how that goes. The chance, it's like then the time comes maybe, and it's like, we don't know.
Joe Burrow is likely out for the year. So with that, my question is, what is the chance the Bengals still make the playoffs?
I say, okay, because we looked at the schedule last week. I remember we already looked, and it was definitely very bleak, even with Joe Burrow playing. I think now that you take him out of the equation, if I had to give you a numbers percentage, I'm going like 5%. I mean,
yeah, they're already 500 right now.
Yeah, and again, like the AFC North, it's just it's living up to the narrative. It's perfect though. I mean, this.
If Joe Burrow would have been healthy, I think the narrative that all four teams from the North would have got in.
No, for sure. Like, and like we're saying, it still is possible. This is definitely just about as bleak as you could be, though. But like we said last week, I don't think the Bengals are in a situation where if you're a Bengals fan, you should be concerned.
No.
Like, that's not the situation. You shouldn't be worried. You guys are still the same Bengals. It's just the way the year started.
I think you need to figure out how to start hotter, though. Because, like, this is the third year in a row they started slow.
I do agree. But then it's like, this is the thing about the Bengals that makes me, like redeems them in that aspect, right? Because like the old Patriots.
Yeah.
It's like that was always their MO. Like, it's like if the Bengals can just do that and consistently start slow and finish fine, it's no big deal. It's like, it's just a matter of, I do agree, though. It's been 3 years of this in a row. You definitely want to see at least one season because the Patriots would every once in a while find a way to start hot.
Yeah, I guess the thing about the Patriots is they won the Super Bowl, though. Like, once you win the Super Bowl, like, you get a lot more slack. Like, they made it and they've been to AFC championships, but they haven't actually gotten the job done. So I don't feel like you get that slack. You get a little bit of slack, but not as much as if you were to finish the deal. I mean, the Ravens still looked good. Like, I think that's another story from this game is like, regardless of Mark Andrews going down, that's a big thing. Like, they have looked really good on offense and defense.
So, like number one, Gus averaging 2 touchdowns over the last 4 games. Again, I had my bullet point here. Like, look, any running back can eat in a competent offense with Lamar. Greg Roman offense, really good for Lamar. Running backs in the system, not as much. This Todd Monken offense, everybody's eating. Get a competent offense around Lamar. Any running back can eat. You just got to involve him in the offense consistently. You got to love that. Then on the defensive side of the ball, Adefe Owe, 1 sack in each of the last 3 games. And then also, Justin Madubuike quietly, one of the best interior defenders in the NFL this season, 6 games in a row with at least 1 sack, 7 in the total span. I don't know why I'm not hearing his name at all. So we'll be the ones to say it. Shouts to Justin Madubuike, absolute beast on the interior. I mean, yeah, the Ravens are just rolling right now.
I think they have, in my opinion, the best shot probably at the 1 seed in the AFC at this point. After watching, like, I think the Chiefs are still really good. I think the Jags are still really good. But the issue is I just have the most confidence in the Ravens to continue to win on both sides of the ball.
No, for sure. And you got your health there. Whereas some of the other teams, you're a little worried about the health. I feel like with the Ravens, you're like, we're still majorly healthy, which is a good thing. We'll knock on wood for you guys.
So just to kind of finish this game off, and then we can move to Steelers-Browns. With Jake Browning getting this opportunity, how do you think the Bengals kind of run their offense? Do you think they take a little bit more conservative approach and run the ball a lot more, try to just manage the game clock? Or do you think they use their weapons in Jamar Chase and T. Higgins when healthy?
I mean, I think that this offense will still be relatively similar to what it was. I think that you'll definitely see the runs go up like 10 more runs a game, 12 more runs a game. You balance it out a little more towards the run, but I think they'll still be running the same stuff. And yeah, like the main point here is, look, Jake Browning is getting a great opportunity. I mean, if you're Jake Browning, you got to take advantage of this. Obviously, your future is not going to be with the Bengals in terms of starting.
Right.
But, hey, you have a great stint this year, get someone interested in you, or maybe lock up that backup role long term. I mean, no matter what for Jake Browning, it's an opportunity no matter how you slice it as an opportunity, whether it's a starting opportunity, backup opportunity, you got to take advantage of it.
talking about taking advantage of something, how long do you think the Steelers are going to ride with Kenny Pickett after this year? Because they have been taking advantage of their defense quite a bit. The offense has not produced. The defense is the only reason they're staying in games.
Well, I'll ask you, like, if you were the GM, what would you do? I'll tell you right now, from my perspective, there's not a doubt in my mind. I'm going to look at other options. And by look at other options, I mean commit to other options. Let me not even steer anyone aside. I'm committing to another option this offseason.
So here's my thing. I think it is 100% a scheme issue with Matt Canada. But I think it's also like 100% on Kenny Pickett to play better. Like there is no this is the same thing with like Nagy and Mitch in Chicago. They are both problems, but they need to be fixed, because something I was just listening to PFF pod, and they were talking about how when Mitch Trubisky was in, he has a very similar grade to Kenny Pickett. And the common denominator there is maybe their skill level, but also the offensive coordinator. So my thing is, if you have two quarterbacks, probably around the same skill level, however you want to debate Kenny Pickett, but you have a coordinator who is the same for both and they're grading out the same, you would imagine that it's probably an offensive coordinator scheme. And you saw the Big Ben in the later years struggle with this.
Well, okay, so yeah, so there's a lot of things I wanted to address about this, because I kind of got on my, like, talking about this last week, but it wasn't like, I just got off it quickly because it is what it is. And it still is what it is. But after a week like last week, I got to reemphasize the same point, right? Where a lot of Steelers fans just haven't really, what's the word I'm looking for, the analogy? Face the music, right? Like, it's right in your face. Because like you're saying, yes, like Kenny Pickett is completely failing, but it's also obvious that the offense sucks. But like we said last week, it's obvious that the two things can be happening at the same time, but for some reason, Steelers fans can't see it that way. I think I would say it like this. We could take Kenny Pickett and put him on a team like the Chiefs, and yeah, he'd look a lot better. He still would be, but then you'd have Chiefs fans saying, this guy's not going to take us to where we need to be. You see what I'm saying? The point is, you can see it on the Steelers. He's definitely not taking where you need to be. He's definitely not elevating you anywhere close to where you need to be. Even if you put him on a really good team, yeah, you can win games with him, but he's not going to elevate you to the promised land. And at the end of the day, that's what you're paying these guys for. I'm sorry, Kenny P. Sorry, Kenny P fans. The reality is, you have to move on from him as a starter in Pittsburgh. And there's just no other way to slice it.
So here is something that'll probably piss off Steelers fans. Tommy DeVito, who has only played in about 3-4 games this year, has the same amount of passing touchdowns as Kenny Pickett and about a little under a third of his total yards, passing yards, I mean. So it's just like, when you have someone coming in like that and playing like almost at your level, yes, it is an offensive scheme thing, but there's probably some issues at quarterback. Like Tommy DeVito lives at home and makes $44,000 a game. Like Kenny Pickett was a first-round pick. There is problems here. I think this says a lot about the Browns defense, though, and just the Browns as a whole and their resiliency. They lose Deshaun Watson for the year, and these guys rallied behind DTR. Like, DTR played like shit when he played in his first regular season game, which, you know, I think he was a 5th-round rookie. Like, you don't really expect much from them. But
right, this is what we'd expect.
Yeah, so, but like, for them to rally and beat like a Steelers team who, regardless of how you feel about their team, was 6-3, now 6-4, I believe. So I don't know. Are the Browns kind of built for this? Can the Browns still win a playoff game?
I think, and again, I think Browns fans would agree with me right now. The reality is, like, that's what hurts so much about this year. I know a Browns fan is a good friend of mine. He would tell you, yeah, the reality is it hurts so much because, you know, no matter how good the team is, there's really no way. And I think, but again, that's why you bring in a guy like Joe Flacco, which still is bleak. But look, the objective reality is, like, with a guy like DTR, I mean, really, what's the chances you're going to go win 4 playoff games in a row?
Right.
I mean, even if you win the one, at that point, it's almost like, I don't want to say that it hurts you more because, yeah, you are the Browns. You want to win a playoff game. You had a lot of that recently. But then you also look at it from the perspective of the optics of, like, look, we are literally losing draft stock. And yeah, by 1 or 2 picks. Hey, 1 or 2 picks can mean a lot at the end of the day. And the reality is this year, it's very likely not going to be the year with Deshaun not playing. It just is what it is. That's why it hurts so much, because you have everything
Chubb
else.
Is out.
Yeah, Chubb, like we said, though, Chubb was fixable without Deshaun. I mean,
I'm just saying without them both, it is like a multiplying effect.
Well, no, exactly. And that's the thing is, if you still even had Chubb now, I'd be saying to myself, you know, maybe just find a way, sneak out a couple of them. But without both of them, it's really a gut punch, because this was where it felt like the year,
Yeah.
I would compare it to probably how they probably feel like kind of how Saints fans did. But the difference was being that this was Drew's last year this happened. Saints fans, when he got hit in the ribs, out for the year, and we're like, well, we're done. Like, we had such a good team. But without Drew, there's not a shot you're going to go make the run.
Oh,
it's kind of like
100%.
Browns fans right now. Like, hey, look, like we had a really good team. This very well could have been the year. But the reality is now, like, on to next year. At least, Deshaun's not going to be retiring on you. That's a plus. But yeah, I mean, no matter how you look at it, it's going to suck. The rest of the year is going to be fun with this defense, but then it's going to suck when you look back on the fact that, yes, this could have been the year, but, things happen for a reason. I guess you have to stay looking at it like that. And, I mean, Deshaun's played good when he's out there recently. That's definitely a big plus, is that, hey, at least Deshaun's showing you still steps up in the clutch, doing stuff. And, I've been seeing the narrative recently, and we had to talk about it. When you compare his numbers to Joe Burrow's, I mean, right now, recently, it's like, they're really not that
he
crazy.
hasn't played that bad.
No, he's not. That's where this weird narrative, like, and again, I get it. Whenever we talk about this, I just glaze over because I'm not going to sit here and talk about things outside of football. But people don't like him for obvious reasons now, and he kind of has like the target on his back.
Yeah.
So that's going to feed into that narrative. But again, if I talk about things
objectively, he is like a top 18 quarterback. He is a maybe even top 14 quarterback where it's like you are on a playoff team with him.
No, for sure.
Like you can win with him with the way he's playing. And like something else I want to shout out to DTR for, and kind of to go off your point of Elijah Moore kind of coming into this offense, is he was able to spread the ball out pretty well. Elijah Moore, 7 targets, Njoku, 15, Cooper, 8, Jerome Ford, 5, like 6 receptions, 7 receptions, 4 receptions, 2 receptions. Regardless, he was getting the ball to multiple receivers and not just, targeting Amari Cooper every single time.
No, exactly. So I think, again, for the Browns, it's kind of just like, it is what it is. How about the best case scenario you could say is, hey, if some way, somehow DTR starts turning elite in the next 5-6 weeks, then you get the best situation ever at the quarterback room.
Yeah.
But again, it kind of just is what it is. You're building on this year, most likely for next year, but you're still a great team. And then with the Steelers,
yeah.
I mean, besides the Kenny Pickett situation, nothing we had to talk about. I mean, Jalen Warren's been on a tear.
Yeah. But there's no reason that Najee should have got more touches than him.
Yeah, that's all I really need to say about Steelers at this point. Is it's like Jalen Warren is the hottest running back in the league at this point. Start giving him almost all the touches.
Let me ask you a question. Would you rather have 14.3 yards a carry or 2.9?
Matt Canada clearly would prefer the 2.9.
And also, just for some, basically, Najee had one attempt where he had like 17 yards. It was like a draw. So realistically, he's averaging like 1.3 yards a carry. Like he should not be getting, like, there's third string running backs on a lot of other teams that would be getting more than him.
It actually is to the point where it's getting ridiculous. But the Steelers offense is ridiculous. So this is just what we expect. I mean, it's hilarious, but it's not if you're a Steelers fan.
So before we move on, let's take our victory rap around the Steelers fans, man. Let's do it. You guys are constantly in our comments talking about Steelers. Y'all got whooped by a backup. Not whooped, but you lost. You lost to a backup quarterback. Like, realistically, like, DTR not outplayed Kenny Pickett, but he got the win. He did more than Kenny Pickett did, enough to get the win. No,
and just victory lap, like, man, it's just like, y'all comments are hilarious. If y'all are going to leave a comment, man, just be sure you're right, because that shit is just funny in hindsight. I won't even be the one. I'm not, like, y'all know me. I'm not even the type to respond in the comments again. I'm going to come leave it here. But I think I do need to come be start. The
Steelers fans are like the only people I respond to, because they're just like so sure that their team is going to win. And it's just like, bro, you just got beat by a 5th round rookie who was starting his 2nd game. So he played well enough to win. Another person that played well enough to win but did not is Justin Fields and the Chicago Bears. If Justin played like this every game for the rest of the year, is he the guy going forward?
See, I feel like no matter what at this point, I feel like I'm a bad guy to ask this to, because I'm kind of in that territory where it's almost like my mind is made up. But again, you got to hear me out.
Okay.
Because I think what it is with me is it's kind of like it's not even about Justin, though. That's where I want to be so clear. Like, this is not about Justin. Like, this has nothing to do with Justin. I think this has much more to do with what the results and the ramifications of skipping out on Caleb if he is who I think he is. You know what I'm saying here?
Well, I personally would like Drake May over Caleb.
See, here's the thing, though. I want to address this for what it is, because I feel like this is starting to become the narrative that's gaining traction. Look, Caleb's intangible mental makeup, I know it's been in question. Look, I'm going to be clear. I'm kind of starting to question it too. Like some of the stuff that I see throughout the last couple of years, especially the last stuff recently about the way he handles adversity and situations and stuff like that, it is a little bit of a turnoff from the sense of you're going to need someone who's at the highest level mentally, who can deal with the most stuff mentally, who's able to travel the world and do all this stuff. And you got it. Like, I mean, yeah, you need someone who's mentally really, really there. But at the same time, I've been asking myself, like, this is going to sound bad because I'm usually not the type of guy would ever, like, I'm like even questioning myself. How am I even saying this? But I think with a guy like Caleb, part of it is where it comes down to it, though, is where it's like, he looks at it like, look, I'm not a professional yet. Like, it's like all this extra stuff people want me to be doing
fair.
and being at the highest level professionally. It's like, but I'm not a professional. And it's like, I know my worth. Like, I know my talent. Like, I could sit here and bullshit everybody and put on a fake superhero cape and be super Mr. Media while I'm not getting like paid to do so yet. Or I could just, you know, be myself, ride on my talent until I'm getting. But then again, it's like, that's what I'm saying. It's like, but if that's the type of person you are, then it's like kind of hard to change it just because you're getting paid. So it's like that pretty.
Once you get paid, it's almost like you don't have incentive to change it.
Yeah. So it's like, that's the thing though, is again, I'm gonna get off my soapbox, but Caleb's raw talent, I do just think it's just risky to pass on. I mean, it's just where it's almost like I'm taking that shot at this point if I have that number one pick for sure. Especially, I think this week even just reinforced it with that shot. I mean, that throw again. I don't mean to sit here and be on my like the Zach Wilson pro day, like referring to one throw. But that's the thing. It's not like that with Caleb.
Yeah.
I mean, that last week, that throw he made stepping up the pocket, dialing the ball down the field 60 yards. It's just stuff that you don't see college athletes like ever doing.
I mean, here's my thing. I think, and they are different players. I think when you look at like the flaws in Justin Fields' game, obviously this is going to have a lot to do with who Caleb Williams' coordinator is, similar to Justin Fields, who his coordinator is. My thing is they have like more of a similar play style than Drake May. They're more similar than different. And my thing is, if as an athlete, Justin is a better athlete.
No,
so my
for
thing
sure.
is, if you're going to go with Caleb Williams, you might as well just stick with Justin and grab Marvin Harrison, one of the top guys. Now, if you're going to move on from Justin, then I'd say you go get Drake May, because May is different than Justin. He's much different than Justin.
No, that is true. Because you really just put a thought in my head I haven't even ever said, because I haven't thought about it till just now.
Yeah.
But you know what I've just thought about, that this is actually my biggest thing about going forward with Justin that makes it kind of volatile. Because we always say, right, like this trend we're going towards with mobile QBs, like you see it very quickly.
Yeah.
How if they rely on their legs a lot and the legs work, but then that you get even just one injury where it starts to affect it, and then you notice they come out and they're not running as fast as they were before.
Yeah.
And then they get injured again, and then he's definitely not as fast as he was before. And my point I'm trying to make is, if a guy like Justin, who his game is not like 75-25, it's like 50-50, if not 60-40, the running is better than the passing. Where it's like if you take if even that just gets hurt in the smidgenest, like it's kind of like RG3 stuff, where the value goes down of his game
Very
so
fast,
much.
Yeah.
Where you get what I'm saying? It's like,
Which
I
is
feel
weird
like
because we saw
Justin
him run the most this game coming off. It's a thumb injury, but you know what I'm saying? Like,
well, no, exactly. And that's what I'm trying to say is I feel like it's like with Justin, yeah, you can build that offense around him while he's still fully healthy. But I think the reality, and he showed us where it's like Justin's not like Lamar, where he runs around all the time and gets hit all the time and always bounces right back up. Like Justin takes a couple hits every once in a while where you're like, damn, it looked like that really stung him. It looks like he's like really hurting from that.
He takes big hits.
Yeah, like where it's like you don't see that. And that's why Lamar's like the one exception to this rule.
He always gets out of the way of contact.
Right, like Lamar's the one exception. Even with a guy like Josh Allen, a lot of times, I'm looking and I'm kind of like, is the reason maybe even this year is an example that some of these times where he'll make tweak plays and things like that happen is because you almost like you take that contact enough and you start to almost like psych yourself out with what's going to happen, what could happen, and you make a mistake instead of just, you get what I'm saying here?
Right.
Like, I'm not even going to bring Josh Allen into this because now I'm going all over the place. But my point that I'm trying to make is I feel like with Justin, I just feel like still his legs are too much of the game, whereas if they ever get taken away, it's not enough for me to commit to him long term.
To be fair, I will say this. I watched him do some things in the past game this week that I've never seen him do. Like, the way he stepped up in the pocket, some of the throws he made while he was being contacted, like, that is the best I've ever seen of Justin Fields, like, playing quarterback. I'm not talking about as a passer. Like, obviously, the Washington game was probably one of his best games as a passer. But just like the little things he did this game are something that I've never seen at the pro level. And I was very impressed. Whereas, like, my thing is, like, if he were to do this every game for the rest of the year, I would be okay moving forward with Justin, because my thing is, okay, next year, year 4, year 5, you can pick up year 4, year 5, like the team should be in competition mode. So then if you want to go ahead and move into a new quarterback, at least you have the team built. And then you're on the rookie contract. So maybe this is the plan all along. But we can stop talking about Justin Fields and the future and just kind of go into like what this loss was. Like, it was a coach's loss. Like, this was a loss by the coaches.
Well, this, I think, again, this is like a lot of other coaching staffs that we'll talk about as we go into more games here. But this was your guys' one this week. Like I said, there's a lot of other teams that had this week at the same week. But the week where you guys realize that if you move forward with this coaching staff, there's nothing ahead.
No.
There's not. I mean, there is. There's regression. That's what. If you move forward with this coaching staff, there's just more regression ahead. Because Eberflus has showed. Not only is he not a head coach, at this point, it's concerning because his defense has been what's been failing a lot of the times.
Yeah.
Where it's like the defense. But look, I know the defense has been on a little bit of a hot streak the past few games. This is exactly why I said what I said with the Bears. Unfortunately, still is with a guy like Eberflus at the helm. I don't trust them.
No.
I just don't. And I think this was your guys' week where it's like, look, we got to move. No matter what, it's not going to happen in the middle of the year, I don't think. But after this year, there's no way you can move forward with the staff.
No, we can't. I mean, the nice thing that you do see is that like players that we recently acquired, whether draft or free agency, like are performing. Roshan looked like a beast. TJ Edwards in the last 4 weeks, 49 tackles and 1 interception, something you wrote down. But I just want to point out, through the first 10 games of being a Bear, he holds like the tackle record. So TJ Edwards is vastly overperforming his contract, and someone who is not is maybe Tremaine Edmonds. I mean, he had the pick, but he just has been injured. Hasn't been bad, but like not what you paid him to do.
Definitely
and also
not.
like at that point, like I would have been cool spending the money elsewhere and just running it with Edwards and Sanborn.
So what you're saying, I was gonna say, so what you're saying is another year or two of this Tremaine is getting.
Yeah, and that's
because
the
that's the thing about his contract is you don't have to pay that thing if I'm not mistaken long term.
No, it's like a 2-year deal basically.
Yeah, what's the point if he keeps this up? I'm sorry.
Which is another good safety net by Poles. But kind of going in like Montez Sweat had. So like the defense is coming along, but when you give up 14 points in the last 2 minutes and 35 seconds, albeit to a very, very good Lions offense, you know, I think you broke this down, and I think this is what separates the Bears the most. And they said this on PFF today, and I think this is a great way to put it. The Lions went from losing ugly to now they're winning ugly. The Bears can't even lose pretty. They can't even win ugly. Like, that's the thing, is like they can't even lose in a good fashion. It's always like a very ugly way. And it's like you could just tell like the culture difference between these two teams in those last 2 minutes. Like, bro, when the Bears missed that deep shot to Tyler Scott, I was like, oh, game's over. We lost. We lost the game. Like, I knew at that point we had lost the game. It was just...
You guys went Derek Carr at the end. Literally, you guys took some inspiration from Carr. I had to point that out.
It was bad. But, you know, Montgomery had his game, like, I'm on Raw 8.
I mean, he's been on a tear this year. One game this year, under 5 receptions. I mean, that is just absurd.
The Bears forced 4 turnovers and lost this game. Like, that's how, like, I don't mean to, like, talk about the Bears so much compared to the Lions, but it's like the Lions came in, fumbled away an easy victory, and then made it a hard victory on themselves. But the fact that they still did it just shows you that they're built for this thing long term.
I'll say from the perspective of like any good team I've ever watched and you know appreciated. I think that the reality is you're always going to have a couple of those games a year. It is. That's why I'm so tired of when we go to the comments and you motherfuckers want to act like we're supposed to get every game right. The reality of the situation is, guys, look, different teams show up different weeks. I wish I could predict. I wish everybody could just predict when everyone was going to feel like showing up. But I mean, hey, man, look, the reality situation is teams show up, and that's the point. Is sometimes you're going to show up in the way that they didn't expect. Sometimes, oh, look, maybe we didn't prepare certain things. Why? Oh, my goodness, everybody's head's not in the right place, and you don't show up the way you're supposed to show up. But guess what? You know what good teams do? Is that they right the wrong halfway through, 3/4 through. That's what good teams do. Like, that's just a reminder to you if you're a Lions fan. Like, you guys are a good team. Like, that's what good teams are not going to play perfect every week. You cannot. I don't care how good you are. But that's what good teams will do is they'll pull it out from the jaws of defeat. Exactly what they did.
Unfortunately, the Chargers were not able to pull it out either after heading into Lambeau. So my question for you is, LAC at Green Bay, will Brandon Staley make it through the whole year if they are eliminated from playoff contention early?
I think it's like we were just saying. I think he will, because it's almost like if you were gonna let him go, right? The time to do it was last year. It's like you already put the clown makeup on and signed up for this year with him. You might as well. You did it yourself. Fucking ride it out with that. Ride it out with him. Fucking make a parade, because I think at that point, and I'm standing on my my point because I've been saying this. It's almost weak. Like you signed up for this. You saw what a kind of a leader he is. Saw what kind of a culture this is under him. And you said, fuck it, we're going to ride out with it while we got our fresh, relative to the franchise, legendary QB, future all-pro type of QB that we're going to have building around for all these years, and we're going to commit to him as our leader. This is what you did. You put the clown makeup on. You sat in front of the mirror Joker style. You got to ride it out with him. I'm sorry.
Staley and Dennis Allen, they're shaking hands.
Staley and Dennis Allen putting on the makeup behind the scenes together.
They're doing each other's clown makeup.
I don't know who's the bigger clown at the moment.
I mean, it's so frustrating because when you look at the Chargers, the way Keenan Allen is playing, the way Justin Herbert is playing, like, they should not be losing these games. And also, Quentin Johnston. Oh, what a fumble of a first round pick. What I was never in on Quentin. I know you were a big Quentin guy. It has just been kind of a brutal watch, frankly.
No, so I'm going to tell you this, because, if you go back and if anyone ever finds the audio, what I was saying about the man, I said I was very high on him because, look, again, I own all my mistakes, but I'm also going to bring it to you straight from the source. What I said was that I think that the reason he'll be so talented is because he was much like Devontae in a sense of, and hear me out, what I said is that he has these drop issues. I did think it was going to translate early into his career, but I didn't think it was going to be like this. Like, I thought he'd drop a few balls here and there. The man drops like half the balls that come his way. And we saw, again, when you drop a ball like that in that type of situation, those are just like gotta have it. Those are the ones where even if a player is bad, they'll usually find a way to come down with it because it's like they know the moment. It's like you can't drop that one.
That's what I was about to say. Like that is like what players dream of. Like that's a ball that players dream of that never happens in the NFL.
I think, again, you look at it, he's thinking too much. Like he's thinking way too much. He came in thinking, I have a drop issue. Oh my God, I was drafted so high and now it's going to be a problem. And you can see it's clearly eating at him. Like he definitely is thinking way too much out there playing and just not playing enough.
100%. I mean, you could look at the defense for the Chargers, who have been underperforming like hell. Joey Bosa got carted off, but I'm seeing that it might just be a fracture.
I was waiting on this.
Yeah. Suffered a foot sprain and is going to be placed on IR.
See, but if you're a Chargers fan, it's the last thing you want to hear. Because again, with Joey, I'm sorry. This was one of those things where you got to call.
Khalil Mack is not having the season he's having without Joey Bosa on the other side.
No, not at all. And again, like this is just a call for what it is situation. Is Joey Bosa when he's playing consistently like an all-pro, great talent? For sure. But what it is right now, man, Joey Bosa has not been living up to the contract in terms of he's not out there enough. Like you're paying. Unfortunately, in a guy like Joey's position, he's one of those guys that's taking up so much cap room, and you're like, is it really worth it? I'm sorry. I'm just going to say it for what it is, because if I was a Chargers fan, I'm at the position where it's like, yeah, Joey's awesome. He's out there, but really he's out there like half the year, it seems, like every year at this point. I mean, it's just like, it's tough.
Before we go on to the Packers, is there anything you just want to get off about Staley?
Well, yeah. Point? So this has just been, like we say, this has been our longest narrative, bro. This has been our longest narrative. I feel like this has been about a 2-year plus stint now.
Yeah.
But I think the writing was just on the wall. Like we've been saying, again, man knows his ball, knows his defense. No, never going to question that. He has his job for a reason. But when it comes to the leading the men, being the guy who everybody has complete faith and trust in, like, is he going to be able to do all that? Again, that's where it came down to. And like you said, the way he gets mad, it's not even like, it's not the way, it's not like, and like a leader of men. Like, no, it's like a very bitchy, like
whining,
sour, solemn, woe is me type shit. And it's like, dude, you are the reason this has been the issue. And I wanted to bring up, just because it really grinded my gears, genuinely, I want an explanation. What the fuck is Ian Rappaport like sucking up to Brandon Staley for?
So funny you
because
say
he wanted to talk shit about Caleb. I saw a comment on Twitter. I don't remember who it was. I'd give the shout out to the @ but they said the tweet said something along the lines of, it was like, it said like, oh, we're cucking for Brandon Staley and talking shit about a college athlete in the same week. Like that seems logical, Ian. Like you're on a little bit of a weird little fucking stretch here, dude.
Yeah, I usually like Ian, but I guess Brandon Staley and Ian Rappaport have the same agent. And in that tweet, someone quoted and said, "Good try, puppet." That's what Tyler just sent us in the group chat.
But see, that's where it made me so mad because it's not from the kindness of Ian Rappaport's heart.
No, it was definitely some agent stuff.
It was definitely either some agent stuff or some personal stuff. But just because he's your boy, even if that is the case on the low, don't be giving me this shit because he's not here to be your boy. He's here to fucking provide wins for the city of LA. Not doing it.
Yeah, so someone providing a win for the city of Green Bay is Jordan Love. He played pretty good.
I think, again, this is why I always said I'm never getting off the Jordan Love train because the Packers are just so bare bones. But then it's like when you see Jordan Love at his best, you're like, no, yeah, that's a guy that definitely still needs to be sticking around there for a little bit. Give him another shot. Give him some time for sure. Like, that just is the Packers. And again, I'm very in that realm. The ads are talking shit to us.
Ads are talking shit.
No, I'm very in that realm with Jordan Love. Kind of like I feel like a lot of Bears fans are with Justin, where it's like you guys, it's like I'm on the opposite side of it. Where it's like I have to side with the Packers guys in this one.
This is definitely the best game of his career.
Yeah, because that's the thing is, I would feel the same about Justin if you guys didn't have that pick you guys are going to have. Where it's like the Packers are not in a situation like that though. So it's like with the Packers, I'm saying stick with Jordan, you feel it out, give him at least another year for sure.
100%. Christian Watson. Finding his own. Finally, what the fuck are you doing, bro?
I was talking my shit. I saw that his dad had some responses to the critics. His dad was talking shit back to me on the low. No, I'm just playing. But he put a breakdown, like explaining something. I'm not even kidding. I saw when I looked up Christian Watson this week. I guess his dad had to come, drop some knowledge and defend him. Hey, same week, look, he wants to come get the touchdown again. Hey, if you're a Packers fan, you got to love to see it. Now you just want to see some consistency, right? I'm not going to gas him yet. We see another good week next week. We'll see another touchdown next week. I'm coming with the shout out for you, Christian. I'm coming with the shout out.
Even though it was a loss, it was a good game for the Raiders, especially since they are facing the Dolphins. So my question to you is, does this game say more about the Raiders or the Dolphins?
I think this game probably says more about the new Raiders regime, right? Because on top of it, with how my narratives have been with what I wanted to start saying about the Raiders is, look, and I think every Raiders fan would agree with me on this at this point. Yeah, the Aiden O'Connell hype and all that, it's fun. It was fun for the fucking week it lasted, or whatever. I think the reality is setting in that you probably aren't going to build around Aiden O'Connell in the future. You're probably in no man's land with this current roster with the QB situation. You're going to have to really feel things out over the next few years. But if you're Antonio, and you're looking and you're like, hey, hold on a minute, maybe am I going to be able to stick around with this interim position and make it full time? I think he's definitely leaning towards that. I would definitely start consider it. The way that all the Raiders so quickly, like we said last week, have started shifting around this Raider way. And I think there's a clear identity. At least there's an identity change. The QB situation has no identity, but everything else about the Raiders has an identity. They are the Raiders again. If you're a Raiders fan, I think there'd be nothing more I'd be wanting than Antonio to get that extension as the head coach because he's showing that he's bringing back that old school shit. You need that. That's what the Raiders have been built on for so long when they were successful. I'm saying, if anything, that's just my narrative about the Raiders is, look, there's a lot of things about them in question about actually how the team's going to be going forward. But at least I think this might be the regime.
Well, I guess the thing too is look at Hunter Renfrow. Why was he just excluded from the offense?
That might have been the most telling thing about how much Josh McDaniels can come in and actually ruin someone's mental health. Jokes aside, we won't even get into this because this is a whole soapbox. But now we can talk about it because he's not there anymore. The amount of things I've heard, and everyone has, this isn't it's a secret. This is the best kept fucking, what I'm saying, the worst kept secret.
Yeah, worst kept secret ever.
But it's apparently Josh McDaniels is a really, 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 really tough guy to be around.
Yeah.
Really tough to be around in the sense of you're literally not going to feel like the same guy you were when you started working with him by the end of it.
No.
Which is really, if that's true, what do you think? Hey, Josh, maybe you got some soul searching to do before you come back into the pro football. Because obviously, what I wanted to say, my point is, Josh McDaniels knows his stuff. Josh McDaniels is a football mind. Josh McDaniels, at the end of the day, has a legendary career. No matter how you want to slice it. I mean, he really does. Not a head coaching career, but a coaching career. So it's hey, Josh, cut the BS. Get back in the league, but just do some soul searching.
He just seems like one of those guys that just can't help themselves. He's always just putting himself in a hole. But I mean, for what you saw out of the Raiders offense, it was impressive, and it makes you kind of realize bro, they have Hunter Renfrow, Jacoby Myers, Devontae Adams, Josh Jacobs. they have a Michael Mayer.
I was going to say he's coming into his own for sure.
They have all these weapons, and your team is just playing like shit. Like at some point, you got to look at the scheme. Like
so that's why this brings me to my next point we need to talk about. I don't know if you've been seeing the smoke, been seeing the news, but apparently Devontae's getting traded to the Jets. This offseason.
Yeah. I've been seeing that.
I'm going to say this.
I mean,
I'm buying into it at this point because the Jets are starting to say to themselves, "Oh man, after this year, especially after this year, we need to do something to really reel those fucking fans back in."
What capital are you spending? Like, you have to fix the O-line.
I agree with that part completely, but I think that's also like, hear me out, like you were saying, where it's like, how are you going to pay those young guys soon enough? Especially where it's a guy like Sauce, to be honest, a guy like Sauce is probably not even going to wait until he is fully off the rookie contract. A guy like Sauce can, if I'm say from my perspective, that was my client. I'm saying, hold on, dude, you can pull that whole stunt where it's like, if I'm not, you don't want to extend me now, I'm just going to set out this year. Like because he's in a position where you can do stuff like that. So you're going to have to start moving guys to feel out that cap space soon enough regardless. I don't know, make some crazy moves where you ship out.
They got $30 million next year.
That's where it is tough, though. It's like you bring in Devontae, you're taking out a good, 15, 20 out of that chunk, and then you have to move around, like you said, for everything else you have to fix with the O-line. I mean, it is definitely not the best situation, but at least $30 million gives you some wiggle room. It's not like wiggleless room to try to, when you're trying to incorporate Devontae. It'd be a lot without Devontae, but
he'll be a Jet.
He will be. I do have a lot of faith that will be something. If I'm going to take one piece of news that could be smoking wrong with it, I think this will be the one.
I think Devontae was like, okay, this isn't it. Moving on to the other side of the ball, Tua had a decent day. Achane is hurt after I just traded for him.
That one hurts us.
Tyreek hurt, but also went crazy. Like the Dolphins won only by a score, but they definitely should have won by more.
No, for sure. I mean, but again, I think this kind of goes along with like what we were saying about how am I blanking on what team it just was? I'm blanking, guys. Hold on. The Lions. Because the Raiders and the Lions at this point, shaking hands game. Because it's like, or not the Raiders. What am I saying? Hold on. The Dolphins and the Lions shaking hands. Because it's like, yeah.
They kind of are a similar team.
You have to. So you got to, these are the ones you have to, fight out. Like these are the games that you are going to, like, every once in a while you're going to play a shitty game. But if you can pull it out, you're the guys that fight, make the last plays. It's all it comes down to. I mean, this is the National Football League. You're going to have weeks like this. This was just one of those weeks. And over to Tyreek, because I was going to say, just a little nugget I had to throw out here. This is the third game this season, 10 plus catches and 1+ touchdown. Tyreek Hill's on
he should hit 2,000 yards this year. If he doesn't, I'll be very upset.
He said himself that was the goal. And it's where it's like you're looking at it, you're like, it's going to be a tight race. But the way that him and Tua play, they have a couple weeks where he goes for 200 yards, and you're like, hold on a minute.
I mean, it's so crazy he was a 5th-round pick. Like, one of the best of all time.
Going back to watch his college tape is definitely something insane. Yeah. Because he really is. You watch and you realize that how he fell that far because he looks so fucking small out there, but it's like.
He's like built though. He's not like a skinny guy.
No, it is just so funny. Like he is definitely one of the most interesting prospects in history.
So the Raiders franchise is looking up another franchise. Well, actually 2 franchises that I don't really know where they're going. New York Giants at Washington Commanders. Who has a brighter future as a franchise?
Man. Well, I would say I'm definitely going Commanders. But I'll say this was the game.
So let me now, before you go, I want to propose this idea to you. Okay. While it may look like the Commanders, I would also argue that the Giants have a brighter future because you can argue that they have the coach in place. You can argue that they're going to have a top 3 pick and have their choice of a QB. And that they definitely have a ton of cap space. Whereas if you look at the Commanders, they have a quarterback who has played well, but he's a 5th-round guy. You don't know. They don't have a coach in place. It is a brand new ownership group. It is probably going to be a new GM. They have money invested on the defense. Their line is just okay, but they have money invested in it. Their running back room is kind of mid. So it's like, realistically, the Commanders have a better starting point, but I would argue the Giants have more to work with.
Yeah, and because I think of it now, I'm like, because like you were saying, I'd say the Commanders and the not the Giants too, but for the Commanders' offensive line and defensive line, it's kind of like I don't really think there's much redeeming on there at all.
No.
Like, you're kind of in a really, really shitty situation, almost minus Sam Howell.
Oh, the Commanders
least-
actually have much more cap space next year. I lied.
How much cap space are we looking at exactly?
They have $90 million next year, and the Giants have $47 million.
That's the thing, though, that does redeem them a lot is because, they're going to have so much money. But again, you got to spend the money right. We saw how it is. Hey, look, it's not going to be them forever, don't get me wrong. But like with the Bears, where it was like, we have all this money to spend. It's like,
Yeah.
just you spend all the money right away or spend a lot of money. Doesn't mean you're getting instant results.
Right.
So I'm going to stick with it, though. Yeah, I'm going to go Commanders just because also I think with Sam Howell, you're very confident you got a guy. I know for a fact all the Commanders fans out there would agree with that. So it's like, at least when you got the guy, there's a lot of comfortability there. Even when I would compare it to like, I'll use myself here. When we had the shittiest Saints teams ever in like 2000, like after the Bull era, and it was like where our defenses were terrible. It was like everything else was really bad, minus the line. It was like, well, you know what? We got Drew and we're going to figure it out. And I feel like with Sam is not Drew, but he's young, got a lot of potential, and you feel like we're going to ride it out with Sam.
I would also back that up. I think Sam is, just what he's done, like you can't take that away. Regardless how you feel about him, like he has played like, I love him. A lot of people don't like him because of the mistakes, but I love a guy like a Jameis or like a Sam Howell that will just take the shots. It's more exciting to watch. Like if you're going to lose anyway, at least make it fun. Like that's why the Bears were so frustrating. It's like they would lose, but then they wouldn't even be fun to watch when they lose. So like Sam Howell with what he's doing, you have to ride with him. Brian Robinson, like you put down PPR machine. He has been playing like crazy.
PPR machine. And then, I got to shift it over to the Giants here real quick. I'll give a couple shout outs. Obviously, shouts to Tommy DeVito. He's been talked about everywhere. I'm not going to go too much to that. Everyone's probably tired of hearing about Tommy DeVito. But shouts to Tommy DeVito regardless. 246 yards, 3 touchdowns, no turnovers. What a fucking day, man. For a third string rookie. That's awesome. I mean, that's just, what a day. And then also, I've been shouting him out, but Saquon Barkley, he needs his respects. I mean, this man is fighting on a just team where it's hard to go out there and fight for a team like that every week in terms of you're on the 1-year deal, all these things around it. But you know what? That man does not care. He goes out there and fights every single week like it's his last game. I respect that a lot. I peep that as a fan, and I do respect that. And then Kayvon Thibodeau.
He's been going crazy
on the season. I would say not elite yet because there's still a lot of things about him where he's out of position plenty of time, and there's still a lot of things you want to see growing. But in terms of as a pass rusher and making splash plays, he's definitely really getting there. And he's getting better and better. So Kayvon Thibodeau is definitely, if you're a Giants fan, something to be excited about, as you already knew. But
all right, let me ask you this, just before we move on. Ron Rivera's gone, right?
Oh yeah, no, this was the game that solidified the fate. And I think it's kind of like a lot of Commanders fans have been saying, and I think I'm going to ride with their narrative. I think to an extent, though, Ron Rivera's kind of just quitted a while ago.
Yeah, I agree.
He knows the writing's on the
Jack
wall.
Del Rio has too.
Yeah, like if I could picture the vibe in the building right now, it's almost probably just like substitute teacher vibes. Like it's like, yeah, like fuck it. Like, you know what?
He knows he's gone new ownership. He knows it.
Yeah, and there's like a lot of things about it that's really tough. Like, and you're getting great money this year. It's kind of like this might be last year coaching. Who knows where he's gonna go after this year? Getting up there. But yeah, I could definitely see him taking another stint too. It'll be interesting to follow on that, but
I don't think he'll ever get another head coaching gig, but he can be definitely an assistant coach. Now, talk about one coach that's fired to another coach that may be fired. Dallas at Carolina, what is the percentage that Frank Reich makes it through this year?
I would say through the year, probably pretty high. But after this year, there's no way. If I'm Tepper, I'm keeping him. Because again, this is just, let me be clear, respect to Frank Reich. He's done a lot of good things in his career, a lot of things you can look up to. But I think he's shown, unfortunately for him, over the past few years, that it's like you're a great position coach, good coordinator, not the head coach. It's fine. There's a lot of guys that are like that. I think he fits perfectly into that bill, where he's just not that per se alpha leader. He's not that guy that's the commander of the locker room, and that's fine. I think, but he's shown that I do believe that is the reality at this point. Frank Reich teams are very lethargic over the last few years of seeing him as the head coach. It's kind of like, at first I want to give him a shot. 2 years ago, I was not saying this when it was first, like with the beginning of the stint, but now it's very clear to me. Like Frank Reich's teams are lethargic, and that's the reality situation at this point. Every Frank Reich team's been a lethargic mess, right? I mean, especially on offense, it's not changing. Take the play calling back. The play calling's even worse. I mean, it's like I don't even want to say I don't know where to start because I guess I'm already almost finished. Like, the reality is Frank Reich and the Panthers is not it.
No. No, Bryce Young has not played well, and I would argue more it's situation than actually his play. He does have to play better, but to your point, and we talked about this last week, like beyond Adam Thielen, there's just nothing there. Like, and the issue with Thielen, in my opinion, it's not actually an issue with him, but just more of like the overall team building aspect is like they don't really have a second guy, like a second mentor. Like if you're the number one receiver, like there has to be some support at the number two, and there just isn't.
Well, and just back to, again, just 101 of let's be realistic for a sec. By the time the Panthers are in any type of competitive window, Adam Thielen is going to be on the door of retirement.
Yeah.
Unless he's one of these other type of dudes that fucking plays till he's 40, which you get like 1 out of every 5,000. I mean, it's like what the chances of him being that guy is so slim. It's like
Very slim.
the chances, yeah. So the reality is by the time they're even competitive, he's not going to be even getting targets. So I guess what I'm really trying to say is what's the point of even building that relationship? Let's just call it for what it is, right? I mean, other than
They have to keep
stalling
they have
out
to keep
time,
him around. Like,
right? Like other than the fact that you're just stalling out Bryce not being at his literally the lowest fucking point he ever could be for a starting quarterback in the league. Him and Thielen, what's the point? I'm sorry, just what's the point?
All right. Well, a bright side for the Panthers, another 0 sack week. Psych, they suck there too. So again, they could have had 2 firsts for Brian Burns.
No, this gets worse and worse too because they would have been Rams firsts,
bro. And imagine if he walks in free agency. Why would he re-sign there?
Tepper is. I know Panthers fans don't like the man. If I was a Panthers fan, I'd have some words for him, but it's like I'm not affiliated. But all I'll say is if I was a Panthers fan, Tepper would definitely be catching 100 bars on the mic.
So, yeah. I mean, we can go to the other side. I think there's really not much to talk about because the offense dominated like they should have. Dak Prescott's been hot. CD's been hot. Parsons has been on. Deron Bland has been on.
Deron Bland is playing at a level. I'll give him a shout real quick, though. I mean, Deron Bland's playing on a level we haven't really seen a corner play on in a long time. He's been on just a tear, not just locking shit down, but making the plays on top of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean...
Some Stephon Gilmore defensive player of the year type season going on from him. But no, I'm sorry, keep going.
No, I don't have much to say. I just... The Cowboys played how they should have played against this team.
Yeah, this was exactly what you'd expect if you're a Cowboys fan.
All right. Now, I don't really have much to say, but I'm going to read you this comment on the Dak Prescott video that we posted last week. So I said, when he plays good, he's definitely top 10. But when he plays bad, he's bottom 20. Like when Dak Prescott doesn't play well, he said, bottom 20, I would say you're smoking crack, but that would be a fence to crack. Dak isn't just top 10. He's at least top 5. So far, Lamar, Jalen, and maybe Mahomes are having a better season than Dak. He's playing on full throttle. He had a game or two with some nasty interceptions, but if you're following the development of the Tex Coast offensive scheme they've implemented this year, you would know what's good. Top 5 is stretching it. He has played great, but top 5 is stretching it.
Well, I was just going to say, no, this is, again, the reality is nobody said, let me also be clear about this. Nobody said that Dak's playing like the bottom 20 QB more often than he's playing like the top 10 one.
It's just when he plays bad, it's bad.
Yeah, and if you know, I'm sorry, and the reality is, if you're going to sit here and try to defend that, you're just lying. Because you can still be a good quarterback and have those very volatile days.
He's not even the second best quarterback in his division right now. Sam Howell is statistically playing better.
That's what, again, we were talking about last week. And again, is Dak a good QB? Yes. But also, is Dak prone to having incredibly poor days? Yes. Like, the reality is true. And this is the thing where I want to be clear where people are going to try to get at me here. Like, well, you've been saying one of my narratives this whole episode is like teams are going to have bad days. Yeah, there's a difference. I said teams are going to have bad days, not days where their quarterback just completely shits the bed and foils the game plan, throwing to hang defenders the whole game, which is the Dak special, unfortunately. And I'm not even trying to, I wish it was not that way. That man has been my fucking dynasty QB for 3 years. Hey, I'm just calling for what it is.
The Cowboys are gearing up to look like they might be able to make a Super Bowl run after what they just did in Carolina. Next game, Tennessee at Jacksonville. Are the Jaguars built for a Super Bowl run?
Here's what I'm going to say about this. The Jaguars have showed us they are so volatile. But when you play in a day where you have 250 plus passing yards, 100 plus rushing yards, and no turnovers like they just had against the Titans, say if you can do that 4 games in a row, you got a shot to beat anybody.
And if Calvin Ridley can stay hot like he did.
Like this was the blueprint for the best way the Texans can. Or I said the Texans. I'm mixing up teams now in the South over here. But my point is look, the Jaguars have got to start balancing the game plan more. I feel like that we get into these rhythms where they'll start getting very pass heavy for almost no reason. And I'm watching, and I'm like, guys, like, let's get back to balancing it out. You got ETN, you got Bigsby, you got good running backs, you got D'Ernest. You like use these guys, just run the ball, because that's where Trevor's at his best, when he doesn't have to be throwing the ball 40, 50 times a game. Yep. I feel like the Jaguars get too much into those rhythms on offense where they just want to sling it. Doug Peterson just gets itching to throw a bunch of play action and a bunch of shotgun out there. And hey, when it's working, it works. But I feel like a lot of the times, the trend I see with the Jaguars is let's just keep it balanced. When the Jaguars are playing balanced, they're very, very hard to beat. But you got to stay balanced. That's the narrative I'm going to take from this game.
Yeah, they just have so much skill everywhere. Like, even on the defense, like, kind of what we talked about, they're just like very volatile. They're hit or miss. On the other side of the ball, on the other side of the field, Will Levis has been looking promising, but the Titans are just like, it feels like, here's what the Titans feel like to me. It feels like this year they just should have went in on the rebuild. And now you're throwing in a rookie who is going to be basically a year ahead of the teardown. So, like, this team may be worse next year. So it's like, why would you I don't know. I just think it may have almost been beneficial for Tannehill to finish the year out.
No, that minus the fact that this is very exciting and it's probably going to help selling tickets early on next year, because I guess that's kind of stupid of me to say, because no matter what teams are going to be excited, you're excited to see a team early in the year. But you get what I'm saying. Like, there will be a lot of hype now, and Titans fans, I'm mixing up all these teams. Why am I, the Texans, my tongue's getting tied over here. Look, Titans fans are going to be very excited next year. Whereas I don't think you'd have that same excitement. It'd be very like teeth chattering, like, I'm so scared to see Levis. Like, where it's like, now you're like, all right, I've got confidence to go see Levis. I'm excited to go see Levis. At least you got that going for you. But I'll be the one to raise the question, right? We were saying it when it happened, but I'll re-raise the question. Signing D-Hop. Minus the fact that, look, you gave your young guys, I'm sure, a security blanket.
Yeah.
From his perspective, I guess it still does not really make much sense, other than he just was only chasing the bag. Like, I think that, guess, how long was the contract? That's why I have
2 years.
So I'll say, because you got him for another year after this year. My main note about this game is, you have got to address the receiving core after this year.
And the offensive line.
It is unserious. It is genuinely unserious. Like, especially when you have a guy like Will Levis, you could borderline not give Tom Brady this receiving core at his peak on the Patriots. He might not be able to carry these boys. With Will Levis this young in his career, you got to give him some other options. And he looks very good with these options. That's why I'm saying it's like almost like I feel bad. Like, this is unserious football right now. Not that this core, I'm not trying to drag anybody's name through the mud, but there hits a point where you can't have guys that are fourth strings, third strings on most teams on the field for 95% of the game. It's not going to work.
Well,
right?
also,
it's
like, you see, like, Vrabel dropping these, like, weird quotes in press conferences and shit. Like,
wait, fill me in, because I'm not even sitting here and bullshit you. I
like,
actually have not seen these quotes.
He basically said, like, the Jaguars played better. They were better coached. And, like, my thing is, like, I understand, like, admitting when you got beat, and I think that's actually a respectable thing to do, but I would never admit to the other team being better coached. Like, that is weird.
Here's my thing. I think it is, but almost got to ask yourself, I don't think he's talking about his coaching. I think he's basically saying to the ownership group,
it out.
Like, these position group coaches, man, like, I know, well, like, you know what I mean?
Okay. And this has been just talked about very, very, like, lightly, and it's all rumors. But, like, with Bill Belichick, like, being probably on the move after this year, I mean, there's a chance there's an opening in New England, and, like, Vrabel played football there. Like, he may want to go to New England.
I mean, are you kidding? I'm saying, like, in the sense of, if you gave him the option, like, I'm sure he's very happy with everything he's built in Tennessee. He's actually done a fantastic job over there. But then on the other hand, I mean, you'd be lying to say he wouldn't consider the damn thing.
No.
I don't know anything about his internal morals and how he feels about Tennessee. All I'm saying is you'd be crazy to think he wouldn't consider it.
Yeah. Well, you got two teams here who, one team may have their quarterback, may have a coach. It's kind of the same theme for the next game. Arizona at Houston. Can CJ Stroud be MVP this year?
Yes. I'd say this game, unfortunately, was one where in the recency bias, you're going to say to yourself, like, did this hurt? Did this hurt his chances because of the interceptions? But I wanted to like point out a note. One of them was very much like really not his fault, right? Like tip ball, it is what it is. The other two, yes, they were not the best decisions. But one of them was definitely very 50-50-ish. Like the defender either was not going to make a play or Nico was going to make the play. Or you know what I'm saying? The defender's either going to make the play or Nico was going to make the play. Like 50-50 ball. The other one was bad ball. But it's also like, I know that every once in a while it was bound to happen where CJ was finally going to try to force something. He's human. Like you're going to try to force something when you're frustrated, no matter how good of a quarterback you are. When you consider right now the Texans, where they stand and the optic of where we viewed them at the beginning of the year, right now, there's no way CJ's not top 3 in the MVP race, if you're being honest.
I mean, I would argue that he's probably one of the most, I would say he has to be. No? Like,
we thought they were going to have 3 wins. I'm an honest guy. I literally said 3 wins. I've always met my L's. Obviously, fat ass L on the year on that.
He is having like the best rookie year ever for a rookie QB. And like you said, like they're not winning with they're not winning with Derek Carr. They're not winning with Mac Jones. They're not winning with Desmond Ridder. They're not winning with Kenny Pickett. Like they're not winning with those guys. Like CJ Stroud is, look at the receiving core.
Well, it's like, I was going to say so many things. Like, let's just be honest for a second. Mine is Laramie Tunsil. Maybe George Fant. Maybe George Fant too. Like, who on the O-line are you really for sure you're still going to actually stick to long-term? Like, your entire interior, you're probably replacing.
Howard, I would say, maybe. Didn't they re-sign him?
So that's the thing is, I have to look into, I'm going to have to look into that. But I feel like either way, as long as it wasn't for a ton of money,
I know what you're saying.
It's like you could turn them depth. You know what I mean? You kind of like move around. I feel like you're looking at a sense where in the interior, you might be looking where all these guys might be replaced eventually. Yeah, the receiving core, you got good names, but you definitely could upgrade it, but that's what I'd be worried about. My main point is I'm saying here is, look, you have tons of work to do on the O-line. You got tons of work to do on the D-line. You got good edge rushers, but the interior, I think you still got a lot of work to do. You definitely still got work to do on, I'll say Blake Cashman's playing fantastic. Christian Harris playing good. You definitely still could add another linebacker, a little bit better, probably placing Littleton this year. Safety situation's not great. Like, corner situation's good, but definitely improvable. Like, there are so many things about this team that are not anywhere near where they should be. I feel like to be playing where they are right now is really what I'm trying to say right now.
Well, I think another thing, too, is like, they had absolutely an amazing draft. Like CJ Stroud, Will Anderson, Scruggs, who we haven't really seen that much.
Maybe he will be. Probably that's maybe their plan.
The new center, yeah. Dell, and then they just got a ton of depth at the later rounds. Like they had a great draft. Regardless if you want to argue what they gave up for Will Anderson.
This is what I wanted to use as my example here for back to our clown painters, Staley and Dennis Allen. You see a guy who's not a clown painter. Like you see like a guy like Dembico come in, and even with nothing, he says, "No, fuck that. We aren't losers.
Yeah.
You motherfuckers understand
Shane
me.
Steichen.
We don't lose." Like there's a mindset change that happens when you have the alpha fucking dog come in, and everyone goes, "Wait a minute. Wait, we're better than we thought we were." Like he elevates us. See, guys like Dennis Allen and fucking and Staley, they do the opposite. They actually like they take guys that should be elevating, and then they start to like they take certain things away from them, and they mitigate them, and they just be careful out there, and they fucking take away their instinct. They make them way shittier.
Yeah,
it's literally glaring. Like you either have guys that elevate them, you either elevate your players, or you're a fucking pansy who makes your players start playing without instinct. And everything just goes to shit.
Well,
I'm sorry to make it so black and white, but you see the cultures.
Even Jonathan Gannon.
You're either an aggressive team, an aggressive culture, or you're very fucking lackadaisical and very careful. And we see which one, I'm just calling it for what it is. We see which one is the one that gets results in the modern NFL.
Yep. I mean, there's no chance Dameon Pierce gets his job back, right? Like, Devin Singletary is just outperforming him in every way so far. So
the Texans' run game, again, for not having a good O-line. Like, you got to love the way this Texans run game is schemed.
Devin Singletary, like, I mean, you could see this as like, how much was he being misused in Buffalo?
The Buffalo's had no run game forever, and this is just adding to the narrative.
Yeah.
It's actually getting hilarious.
Other side of the ball, I mean, Will Anderson's been playing good. Cashman, like you said, like
Cashman needs to credit. Like this man is playing probably like the best linebacker in football right now, and nobody talks about him. Like
Singletary had a pick too, right?
No, Stingley. You mean Stingley?
Stingley.
I was getting confused. I was like, wait a minute, Singletary's out there. No, yeah, because I want to talk about it real quick. Where Stingley's been a little disappointing. I think we can agree. I really had Stingley pegged out as like, that's a future All-Pro player.
Yeah.
A little bit of LSU homer bias. And I know for the fact the injury he had in his senior year is a big reason he's never panned out to being the corner I knew he could be.
Mm-hmm.
But regardless, he's definitely improving a lot this year, first couple seasons, and you're seeing flashes that you weren't seeing. So that's also got to be exciting for a Texans fan.
They just have very promising pieces, young pieces on the other side of the ball. Going to the Cardinals side, I think kind of like going to that theme is like the Cardinals, even though they don't have the wins, have played better than what they're supposed to be.
You see what Gannon's going to bring.
Yeah. You see it. Kyler Murray has looked really good these last 2 weeks, honestly, like better than I would have expected.
I was going to say, when you come back, not only from the injury, but in midseason when you had not really any time to get going with the guys, I would say Kyler's showing me like everything you want to see. No. And again, we talk about intangible things. If I'm going to stick around you, you have to show me something intangible that no one else is going to give me. Like I said a few weeks ago, Kyler gives you like, he has a different type of scrambling ability than anyone else in the league. He's not as fast as Lamar. He's not as strong as Jalen Hurts, but he's as nimble as anyone else. He's definitely someone I think would commit to building around because of his unique skill set.
Also,
it's almost like, why would you not, right? Like with the draft capital you're already going to have and stuff.
There's no point to, honestly, like he's young enough where it's like you can, and you already have the contract in place. It's like, what are you going to do? Like throw away this guy for the next guy? Like,
he showed you can go on win streaks with him. Like, yes, was it early season stuff? Was it where the second half of the season fell apart? Just reverse the order. Like, just start off slower and start getting hot at the end of the year. The Cardinals have showed they can go on streaks. They can win with Kyler.
And the Cardinals have pieces in the receiving room. Greg Dortch, Rondale Moore, Trey McBride, Marquise Brown. Like, they're there. And their defense, too, has played
and Michael Wilson, too. Like, I know he's been a little quiet these past couple weeks, whatever he's dealing with, but he'll be back.
He's been good. They're kind of what you were saying. Like, the Cardinals played like they've been playing all year, just with Kyler now. The next draft will mean a lot for them. And yeah, you put down that Jalen Thompson.
Yeah, I'd give a shout out to Jalen Thompson, the one sack, the one pick day. I mean, that's awesome. Shouts to Jalen Thompson, man.
So with Stroud playing like an MVP, you can look to the underside as he was the number 2 pick. We're going to go to Tampa Bay at San Francisco with Mr. Irrelevant. Now, let me ask you this, because Purdy's been playing very, very well. Does Purdy have to play like a top 10 quarterback in order for San Francisco to make a run at the bowl or to win the bowl, I'll say?
It's an interesting question. I think,
because
number one,
how bad can the quarterback play be for them to win it?
This is where I think, so interesting year in the sense of a lot of other years, I think we would look at the Niners and say like, they would be the no doubter, like the favorite out of the conference. Like the Niners are so well built that it's like, to answer the question with this is not my actual answer, you get what I'm saying? It would be my answer if it wasn't for a certain somebody in Philly. So stick with what I'm saying? Where it's like, normally you could kind of coast by, and you kind of like, he didn't have to play perfect until the bowl, and we can kind of ride it out against worse teams, and as long as our defense plays really well, our run game works really well. But when you come up against Philly, like I do think he's going to have to play like lights out football. That's going to be the one where it really comes down to, just like last year, we didn't get to see how it was going to go last year.
Right.
That's almost like, you're looking at it in a sense, if you're an NFC fan, you're saying to yourself, is it certain? Abso-fucking-lutely not. But you're saying, I got about a 75% chance I'm looking at that come right before February, late January, I'm going to be watching the San Francisco 49ers walk into Philly Stadium, and I'm going to be watching a fucking dogfight. Because that's just how it feels at this point.
Yeah, I mean, Brock Purdy has been playing lights out recently, and it's like, for the value, you really can't complain. And it's like, there's no improvement that you would get in the market right now.
No, this is best. Like we've been saying, this is best case scenario. Where, like we say though, too, if you're the Niners, this has got to be the year. Brock's not taking, like, you got lucky that he didn't tell you motherfuckers, I need the bag this year. Like,
he could have very easily.
He literally said, blessings to Niners Nation. Blessings. Y'all gave me a shot. I'm gonna respect it. I'm gonna ride one more year on this piss pay contract with the production I'm giving you. But him and his agent are going to sit down this offseason and they're going to have a hard heart and be like, bro, not only do you need to get paid, but I got to get paid keeping you as my client. Like, let's make something work here. Because if I'm not just going to let you just walk out there, get hurt, go from being able to claim $50 million, well, he's not going to take that, but you being able to go demand $40-30 million from this team to having it shoot down to nothing because we don't even know what your future is. Fuck that. He's going to say, let's sit down, let's figure out a good number, let's go to the Niners front office and let's make a deal happen. Because there's no way that's not going to be the case.
And it has to happen because you're going to have to also pay Ayuk at some point, and Debo just got paid. So it's like, what are you going to do with that? I mean, like Kittle's getting older, Trent Williams getting older. Like, this is the narrative we stayed with. Like the Niners really have to do it this year.
No, like I don't think, because I will keep saying it, where I think Niners fans are kind of I've been in this territory before. I know how it is. You're so in the moment of, fuck it, we're dominant right now. It do not matter. It do not matter because I know I'm going to watch my team play good next week. But you got to start thinking to yourself, like, after this year, if this isn't the year, like, there is really going to be ramifications. When that paycheck comes for Brock Purdy, there's a big difference when you're paying a guy 200 and like like $2 million over the year with, I'm sure, like total like $2 million versus the 40, 30 million he's going to demand. I'm sorry, like you will see the difference in the cap. You will see a big difference when you let go even just a couple guys. It makes all the difference. That's all I'm going to say.
I mean, obviously, the injury on the other side of the ball to Hufanga is big. Like he played really, really well. Jair
Brown stepped in though, and like I had to give a shout out to him. Really, really, really impressive.
Yeah,
for stepping in and getting your first like real reps, not his first reps of the year, but like really the first real defensive reps.
And you also have Nick Bosa and Chase Young on the other side of the ball, and it's just like I don't really know how much there is to say on the Niners other than the fact that like they are a superpower that just hasn't been able to get it done in the big game, and this is really their chance because if you think about it, like they're not the same core as they were when they played the Chiefs in the Super Bowl where Jimmy G overthrew that guy, but it's like the remnants of that team is kind of still around, and it's like at some point it's going to be like, okay, they couldn't do it.
No, that's like this year really does have to be the year because also when you said it made me start thinking, when there's somebody else they're going to have to re-sign after this year? A man by the name of Chase Young, who they just traded for.
If they want to keep him, yeah.
Well, that's the thing, too, is like, you got to keep him at this point. I mean, if you just traded out, if you spent your 2 last third-round picks on Jake Moody and Chase Young, I mean, and you got nothing, like, you re-sign him,
yeah,
that's just
true.
It's just terrible optics.
Going to the other side of the ball, Todd Bowles. Warm seat?
I would say,
Mr. Bowles.
I've noticed, no, it's not warm, bro. I know I wrote it as that. I have to correct myself. It is literally a seat that is smoking on fire. Because I didn't know Bucs fans were so on the fire Bulls train until last night after I did my notes. But I was taking a look over on Bucs Twitter. They literally are at their breaking point. I didn't know it was like this. There's literally #fire. But bro, it's to the point where they have fucking fan-made shitty Photoshops. Like it's to the point where 40-year-old dudes are buying Photoshop to make it. So it's getting very bad. Like shitty edited #fire Bulls, minimal like little effects added on. I'm literally seeing those all over my social media feed. It's getting to the point where
I think that has to do with our narrative. Like they don't have an identity. They probably should have sold this year at the deadline and they didn't. And, they have some talented young guys. Like you put Yaya Diaby had 3 sacks. Kalijah Cansey has looked nice. Like, but at the end of the day, like Levante David.
That's why you should have shipped out the old guys now. Like you literally already have good young pieces. It makes it even worse when you look at it like that.
Even
it's
if
not
you
like
ship out Evans, you still have Godwin.
Let's call for what it is regardless, though. Why not? Why didn't you ship out both? Because I'm sorry,
they could have got a good return.
Bucs fans are gonna hate to hear that, but honest Bucs fans that know their ball know that I'm being completely serious and that I'm also right. Because the reality is, yes, in football, shit that hurts the most is usually the stuff that you had to do. And that's the shit where you would have been like, that really hurt. But then when we got a bunch of really good receivers in the next, and you actually could have rebuilt it quickly, you'd say to yourself, oh, well, I'm very thankful we did that. But now you're not going to be able to say that.
Well, the thing is, too, is like Baker Mayfield is playing like pretty good. Like he's at basically 2,400 yards, 15 touchdowns. Like, he's on pace to be on one of his better seasons of his career. So it's like if you have a quarterback who's playing in the top 15, top 18, it's like the room for improvement is not very big.
I'm so glad you brought this up because this actually thinks the thing that if I was a Bucs fan would irk me the most, because you're spot on. This is where it gets crazy. Is you bring Baker kind of on a little redemption tour, like really surprising a lot of people. And it's funny because then you get a lot of people saying like, well, fuck it. If Baker's not the future, this is stupid. But really, it's not the issue. What's funny is if you shipped out the guys that I'm saying and you got a lot of draft capital and you go into this offseason with a little bit of money and you got options, you could really have built this O-line up quickly, give Baker a good O-line. But now Baker's stuck with the same boo-boo O-line, minus Tristan Wirfs. And it's like, what are we doing? Like, you could have given a QB who's heavily overperforming a lot more help, scrapped the receiving corps out a little bit and built it up. You can build the receiving corps up rather quickly, though, in my opinion. It's like, I'm sorry. It was just that this, in my opinion, was a heavy fumble of the future.
Baker is on pace to have thrown for the most yards in his career this year, if he stays on pace. and he'll be right up there with touchdowns as well, like literally one short. Also, he's kept the interceptions down really low. Like Baker has played very well for the contract that he was given.
Oh, and the Bucs, I'm just calling for what it is. They have minimal run game too. Like, yes, they have a couple weeks this year where they'll show up but I feel like it's very volume based. Like when you look at the Bucs and they'll run for a lot of yards, they also ran the ball like 30, 40 times. You never watch, like, it's never a day where it's like, yeah, well, they just ran the ball for 12 times and panned out 80 yards. Like, it's not like that. Like the run game, you have to go to it a ton for it to be there. It's just the way they play offense is so archaic right now. Part of the problem.
Bucs, sorry, man, just no identity.
They are definitely in the identityless territory.
We went from the number 2 overall pick to Mr. Irrelevant to another number 2 overall pick. And New York Jets at Buffalo. Is the Zach Wilson era over?
This was something I really did want to talk about this week. Probably something I was I don't want to say excited to talk about because it actually hurts me deeply. Sad. But I was interested to talk about it. I'll leave it at that. Because what about this season, if you're a Jets fan, probably stings the most is like, yeah, you had the bull hopes and everything that I won't even get into that's already obvious with Aaron Rodgers. But push that aside for a second. I think the cherry on top of the misery cherry, the shit cherry on top of this whole shit Sunday at this point is that not only is all that, but now Zach Wilson, the contingency, hopeful future you had, like, you know, what if we can Jordan Love him and, you know, type shit, and you can have a best case scenario, and after the Rodgers brings home the Lombardi and all said and done in the future, oh my God, now we have Zach Wilson to come out and redeem it. Like, that shit's dead. Like, that's where it really hurts, is because now that contingency for the future, on top of the beautiful vision you already had for yourself, it's just not existent. Because this was definitely the universe saying out loud, Zach Wilson in New Jersey and the New York Jets, the whole meme, it's not a thing.
He definitely won't start a game
and
again.
The Jets is not a thing, and that's where it really hurts, because the media over there, we already know how that is, where there's such a terrible relationship. There's like, it's unsalvageable. Like, it went from being where Zach had a future in New York, New Jersey. You get the memes. Now he has none of that. Like, now it's like, now where Zach's new home is going to be something to keep our eye on.
Well, also, it's just like, to say the Jets offense is bad is an understatement.
Dude, they're unwatchable. Like, it's like
really bad.
Because like you were saying last week, I actually want to bring this up. I mean, tell me if you feel the same way. It's really getting to the point where I'm starting to, I feel bad. I mean, like I'm with you where, no, I love football so much where it's like, no matter how bad a game is, I feel like I can stay tuned in.
Yeah.
But the Jets are really starting to push my boundary where it's like, I actually really starting to struggle, like staying tuned into the Jets game. Like, I'll catch myself on my phone so much during the Jets game, and I'm like, dude, I can't be doing this, because I genuinely watch every game intently, but they are just so boring. Like, subconsciously, that I really do catch myself not even paying attention a lot, because it's so, not word boring is not right. It's actually not boring because I love football. It's so predictable garbage that it's not fun to watch. Like, you know exactly what's going to happen. Like, the Jets truly are at a point where you know exactly what's coming with the way they line up. You're like, we've seen this about 40 times over the last 2 weeks. We've seen this about 20 times today. Like, it's such predictable garbage at this point.
Well, also, you got to think about it like in this way, Dobbs. At some point, like, someone tweeted this, and I can't remember who it was, but they're like, at some point, this Jets defense is going to break. Like, they've been bending all year and keeping them in games. Like, at some point, they're going to break and be like, you know what? Like, we're doing all of this, putting our heart on the line, and it's like the offense can't produce a touchdown. Like,
that's what's so impressive about this defense, is because not only are they, it's been overstated, like we all know, they're a dominant defense, but what I feel like hasn't been overstated is it's not just the fact of how good they are schematically and how talented they are. The effort level they bring, even when they are literally getting decimated because of how bad their offense is and they can't do anything, they still bring the fucking boom all game long. Like, I never once watched them and I'm like, yep, they're quiet quitting or they're giving up. Like, no, they are going to hit somebody as hard as they can, down 26, just because that's their identity and that's how they want to play football.
Yep.
Whereas that's what hurts you so much if you're a Jets fan, is it's like, if our offense can even literally revert about 15% of that same energy, we would be above 500 right now. But Nate Hackett and Zach Wilson as a tandem are the most incompetent offensive duo in history. I'm willing, that's one of my hot take of the day. That
worse than Russ and Nate Hackett?
Oh, no, this is so much worse. Because I feel like at least with the Russ, you could always, and we'll go back. I have to name pull up some of these highlights over the last year, because I feel like there's at least plenty of redeemable moments now in hindsight where Russ really would save Hackett. Like, Russ every once in a while would dial up an audible, That helps something.
I think
like,
we're seeing that this year too.
Yeah, it's like, and that's the thing. Sean trusts him to do that shit. But then, whereas, we're exactly with Nate Hackett this year, and you get a guy like Zach who has no idea really, not no idea, but he's not comfortable enough in the offense. They don't have enough faith in him. He doesn't have faith in it. Like, you're seeing what happens when you don't have somebody who can do that. It takes a terrible offense that was already terrible, and it makes it literally the worst. Probably any Jets fan has ever seen.
Garrett Wilson's playing like garbage, and it's not his fault, but it's just the offense.
Worst game of his career for sure.
Breece Hall has been, even his running stats are not good. It's really receiving that,
because the O-line is so terrible too. Like,
horrible.
That's where I was saying, like, there's so many things where normally an offense would have something redeemable. If the pass game sucks, the O-line's fun to watch. If the O-line sucks, the quarterback's fun to watch. The receivers are fun. Like, they have right now nothing besides when Garrett Wilson wants to turn into an acrobat. It just hasn't been happening because, to your point, like, where's the motivation on his end to go make a special play when they, like, there's so much that goes into it psychologically. Like, why is it when everyone else be breaking their back when the offense can't produce a touchdown? Like, it doesn't add up.
So the Jets offense is dead. Another team in New York just fired their offensive coordinator, and it looked like they had a little bit of a spark this game. Who knows if it keeps up? You know how that shit goes. Usually after a game or two, it might fall off, but it definitely looked better.
It did, but I also want to, like, I'm going to be on the whole, like, you got to pick a side on this one.
Yeah.
I think I'm on the Ken Dorsey sympathizer side.
Same.
Because it's like, you watch the Bills this year and last year, and I think it's very easy to be like, this is like this weak narrative everybody's jumped onto. Is it's like, it's all Dable, it's all, look, I do think that, yes, to an extent, like, certain habits that get taken out innately when he left, you can see, and all these things. Like, I'm not saying that's not anything to do with Dable leaving, but it's just absolutely lazy to put all this on Ken Dorsey. Because Josh Allen wants to turn in to a fake blindfolded Mahomes every once in a while and, like, try to be a hero, or because the running backs can't hold on to the football, like, that it's Ken Dorsey's fault. Like, I just feel like that's lazy. Like, that's where it was a bit of, in my opinion, an incredibly lazy firing, because I feel like that this is, yes, it was a spark week, but it's also like, the Jets are so bad with no life that, yes, as amazing as their defense is, it's almost like you're gonna find a way to put up points eventually. And I feel like a few people were saying, this looked like a Ken Dorsey game to me. Like, this looked still like how the Ken Dorsey offense looked. It's just,
I think it was like a rah like type day. Like, yeah.
And I think too, it's not even talked about enough. Because
I think Dorsey was the scapegoat.
He was, and that's what I'm about to get into next. Where I want to hear your opinion on this, because I think psychologically, we're at a point where I think Stephon Diggs is really in everybody's head in that locker room.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to come out and say it. But he's almost like that family member that you rely on so heavily. It's like, I mean, if you're a young kid, it's like you rely on so heavily, like, they do a ton for you.
You can't.
But at the same
anything.
time, they're like really, sometimes they're making your life hard in some aspects, and you really want to speak up, but it's like nobody wants to, because you're like, well, I want to have this. Like, that's like Stephon Diggs in their locker room. Like, it's like,
it's an abusive home.
No, I mean, like, literally, they're at a point where they're like, they know they need to speak up. They want to speak up, but no, they don't want to make him step away even more than they feel like he already is. Like, it's a weird situation going on there psychologically.
Luckily, Kincaid has stepped up these last couple games, so it has allowed maybe to take the pressure off Diggs, especially with Shakir playing well too. But I know what you're saying. Like, that's a thing where it's like, if the Diggs thing explodes, it feels like everything could just go south for the Bills, and it's a shame because their defense have actually been playing pretty well.
Their defense has been the highlight, dare I say, this season, which is very weird, because not that they weren't a good unit before, but they went from being a good unit to, I'd say, a great unit.
Yeah.
But then it's like, yeah, that's the Bills thing has been this whole year, as you know, for me. Like, they just don't have much consistency.
Right.
Is this the start?
Right.
We're going to have to address this again next week, because I'm not with the Bills. I literally will not. Even if they do it 2 weeks in a row, I won't get hyped. It's going to take at least 3 or 4 in a row.
Yeah. Leonard Floyd's 2.5 sacks on the day, 9.5 on the season. Rasul Douglas, good addition at the deadline.
Like, I would say amazing. Like, that really might have been the trade of the trade deadline in terms of, like, value for another team. I mean, this man came in and has, like, immediately went from being like, yeah, he was helpful, we know, on the Packers, to like, oh my goodness. Like, this man is out here as their number one corner, I mean.
So this game mattered a lot to the Bills. Let me ask you this. Seattle at Los Angeles Rams. How much did this game matter for the Seahawks?
This is the one where, like, I've had the one a few times over the past few years as a Saints fan when we were used to be good at trying to make deep playoff runs, where I'll tell you, you look back and you're like, man, that was the one where we maybe could have had home field advantage. We maybe could have had the bye, or however you want to look at it. Like, we maybe could have had a better seed. That's going to be the one you look back and you're going to for sure say that was the one we really blew. Like, because that's inevitably at this point almost with the way the NFC is trending, unless you win out. Like, even if you did, you're still looking at a bleak situation for anything at getting a bye week. It's like, the Seahawks kind of, I don't want to say bleak actually with the 49ers, but you get what I'm saying. Like it's not favorable anymore.
There's really no chance they win the division. Yeah.
It's like this one really stinks. And it's because why it really stinks too is it's really not even anybody on the Seahawks' fault. Like you really can't mitigate for Geno getting hurt, not being able to throw the ball the same. And even with Drew Lock, like Drew had what seemingly, yes, like the interception was bad, but I'll say this. There also was a throw he tried making up like just straight up the middle of the field, straight up the seam. And I don't remember exactly who it was, but the receiver and him, I think it was JSN, just weren't on the same page. Whereas if JSN kept just trailing up, it probably would have been not a touchdown. Get him in field goal range. You would have had extra 3 points on the board. Could have won this game in theory. But that was like the one, that too was probably the play I look back on the most where it's like, because they didn't trust him to even throw the ball again. It was like, this isn't going to work. Like Drew he's throwing the interception and that misread. It was like, we're not trusting him to throw the ball. Their offense went dead in the water just like that. And it's like, that's where it hurts the most. It's like, you can't really, as a fan, point at anybody. It's like,
what it was. Yeah.
It was literally just a simulation saying like, nope, the Seahawks cannot be 1 seed. Like, it's like, what the fuck? Like, that's just the worst way for it to happen.
I'm ready to do a victory lap on that one.
That's what I'm saying.
And the thing is, if the Seahawks win the division, it's right. Like, that's all I need.
Even if they come close, yeah. I think we knew we were standing out with that take. Yeah, it was a good take. We're standing on it.
Good day on defense for their secondary.
Yeah, it's the young guys. Tariq Woolen, 1 interception. Devin Witherspoon, 1 sack. But then also, like, it's the thing is, yeah, so this was a great day. With the Rams, I'll move over to the Rams real quick. Because I want to say, I got a few things I want to say for the Rams. It's like, what are you going to really say? There's not too much.
No.
I don't think, you're not looking at, did this redeem the season, anything like that. This was just kind of one of those fun wins you get as a bad team, right? Yeah. But we'll talk about him for a sec. Because look, Royce Freeman, taking over as the running back one, it seems. I know Darrell Henderson's still out there on third down. He still out there to pass block. Royce Freeman, out of nowhere in these first weeks, I think he's played like 4 games now, just kind of stepping in. He's had great weeks every single week he steps in. I don't use the word great. I'm overshooting. He's had good weeks, very productive weeks. And then Puka Nacua, first, I don't even say big game again in a while, but he's back with a bigger game, 5 receptions, 70 yards, a touchdown. And then I got to give a shout out to Darian Kendricks, first career interception. Definitely could not choose a better time to have your first career interception. Seal the win away. Never forget that one. So that was definitely one of those just fun wins for the Rams.
I guess
it doesn't really say too much about them. It just says that they took advantage of a good situation.
We know what the Rams are, and kind of like we've said all year, they just needed to ship away the talent that they had and rebuild because Cooper Kupp, like, he's hurt again.
It really did hurt to watch that one because it's so much has been on that's a narrative I didn't want to be right. I didn't want to be right on the narrative that 2 of our most generational receivers we ever had, being Michael Thomas and Cooper Kupp of this generation, they had like 1 year at their peak. And we never got to see them replicate that same season. Unfortunately, it's spot on because that's exactly where we're at now. And Rams fans hated me for that. Somebody was like very adamant that like Coop was going to come back and still be the same exact guy. And I'm sorry to say that I was right because I didn't want it to be this way.
Yeah.
But Coop, he is an injury-prone guy, much more than he was before. And he already was. But now it's like, now you're worried every single week he steps out there. So it sucks. It sucks.
Going into the next game, Minnesota at Denver, Russ is not the same guy, but he's playing well enough to win. He's playing good football.
Well, like we said, with a guy like Sean Payton next to him, my heart was beating a little bit. I was like, Sean's not going to make you look like a jackass, is he? There's no way my boy Sean's going to make you look insane. All right, so sure enough, you're starting to see what I knew that the Sean Payton era Broncos were going to look like.
Oh, that's what I just knew at some point it was going to turn a corner because like, no way this is Sean Payton.
There's no way this dude frauded me out. Like, bro, no way Drew. Shot. Like, I knew Drew was the GOAT, man, but like, I didn't think Drew was holding it down like that where he made Sean not look like a fraud. But no, sure enough, that wasn't the narrative. Sean's not a fraud. I'm very happy to say. I'm very happy to see. I think this is the, I used the word like continuity you were going to see from the Broncos. Like, good, very good. I don't want to use the word stout, but very consistent defense.
Yeah.
Like very like smart situational offense. That's the Broncos now, I would say. Like they've turned into a very situationally, I don't want to say dominant, but they're a good situational football team. They play things the way they should play them. They address situations the way the situation should be addressed. And when you don't have maximum talent, I think it's about all you can do. Where the Broncos are very much in that middle of the road kind of like situation. If you're a Broncos fan, you've got to feel ecstatic about this. Like, you're nowhere where you need to be to go make the run, but you say to yourself, like, hold on a minute, we got the guy to make the run with. Now we just got to make some shit shake over the next 2 years.
I mean, Russ is currently tied for third for amount of touchdowns. And in terms of quarterbacks starting 10 games, he is tied with Derek Carr for the least amount of picks with 4. Like, Russell Wilson is playing very good, efficient offense.
He's, like we said, he's not moonball Russ anymore.
No.
It's like you can guys, you know, they over the career, they lose some things, but the great ones will adjust some things, right? And it's like with Russ, I feel like he lost the moonball, but then we didn't. Last year, he was very stubborn on it. It was like he was like ready to take that step at being more just like, I'm gonna check it down more. I'm going to my first open guy. I'm not gonna get too fucking, what's what I'm looking for here? Greedy.
Yeah,
that was him last year. A little too greedy, a little too. I'm still moonball Russ. It's like he had that moment in his head. He said, no, moonball Russ. He's done.
I think that was Peyton
he's like, I was
over.
moonball Russ, and I always remember it. I always remember those days. Like, you know, moonball Russ existed. He doesn't exist anymore.
Once Russ stopped kissing babies, he started playing well. I think it has to do a lot to do with Sean Payton. But in reality, honestly, they need to piss test Courtland Sutton. What the fuck has he been on these last couple of weeks? He has been playing out of his fucking mind.
I think what's funny is this always was Courtland Sutton. I think it's so hard to trust him because of we know his injury history.
Yeah.
But this has always been Courtland Sutton. Like when he's out there and he's healthy, man,
he's had a touchdown in the last 5 games. 1-on-1,
it's like a guy like Courtland, the way he's built, it's damn hard to defend him. This has always been him. I mean, he's got great body control, great hands. He's a QB's dream when he's healthy. That 6'4", Daniel 240 frame. I mean, it's like you cannot teach that type of stuff.
No.
Courtland Sutton is in an unteachable talent range. You just got to be out there healthy.
It was a good day for the Broncos on offense. They also played decent on defense. The Vikings also had a pretty good day on offense. Josh Dobbs, pretty good. Like, Josh Dobbs, you cannot, like, bro, 2,200 yards, 12 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions on the year. Like, you can't complain about that.
No, not at all. And I'd say, too, like, if you're a Vikings fan, you've got to be very happy, I feel like, about how the run games look recently. Like, yeah, look, that's why I think it's weird, is if I told you that you guys rushed for almost like 180? Yeah, like almost 180 on the day. Didn't feel like it. But when you can do that consistently, you have a chance to win almost any game. And it's like, I feel like start off a little slower.
Their offensive line like really found their groove, I will say.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you really were struggling with this early on. Now you're starting to get into a little bit of a flow. And when Josh Dobbs is coming into his own and he's going to be feeling out the ropes, that's exactly what you need to happen. You got to take a security blanket, throw it on him. It's exactly what you guys did.
The Vikings have the best pass block and the 6th best run block according to PFF. So
the O-line has definitely been coming together.
The top 3 teams for pass block are Vikings, Lions, Packers.
I'd say like the Vikings are in a territory too, where they have, I'd say, a lot of young guys that they've added recently. I'd say you could say offense and defense, but you know, where you got to give them shouts out. Shit, on the defensive side of the ball, I got to give my shouts to Ivan Pace, undrafted linebacker, playing great this year. Cameron Bynum, young safety, playing great. Mekhi Blackman, rookie corner, playing really, really good. Like this new regime has been really, really hitting on the draft picks. Where I said, I was so sure that they were going to have to hit this rebuild, but hold on, maybe, just maybe, they've been hitting these last few drafts so well that these guys that are so young are just going to step right in. Maybe I was a little wrong. Again, I'm always getting my wrongs. The Vikings just maybe still have enough ammo in the tank that whole competitive rebuild they're going for, I think they might just be able to still stay on that.
I agree. I mean, they already have like the top skill positions, TJ and Justin, and then they added Jordan Addison.
Daniel Hunter's playing like an all-pro this year for the first time. He's always been playing a really good player. Now he's playing like an all-pro. So
12
it's like
sacks on the year.
He's an absolute beast.
Too bad he's going to be a Bear next year. Anyway, that was You Don't Know Ball number 60, Week 11 recap. So, yeah, thank you guys for watching.
Yeah, thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed, drop a like, drop a sub. We'd love to see you guys back again. Y'all have a great rest of your day.